Tigers are going to win the premiership in 2017. The Tigers have got home for the first time in 37 years.
Beautiful. That's what it means. That's what it's like batting for a footy team you love and work for. Just the overflow of emotion.
What a win, what a grand final for the second year in a row. A stirring, emotional victory. The Tiger Army finally get to rejoice. Hello and welcome to Access All Areas. Matthew Lloyd and Damien Barrett. A remarkable story. Richmond are the 2017 Premier. Can you believe it?
No, it is still hard to believe, isn't it? Yet it's crept up on us, and yet you go back over the three finals, Lordo, and they had a combined score of 23 goals more than the three opponents they played. They went into the two finals, the first and the third final, as underdogs, and yet emerged as one of the all-time dominant finals teams.
Come from nowhere, Lloydie. I mean, this time last year there were question marks about the coach, whether or not he would be reappointed. Yeah, they did a review. They came up that he's the man. He himself put himself out there and changed. I think that is as significant as anything.
Yeah, it is, Gary, and their stars dominated. They've always had four champions. They dominated. They couldn't have been any better, particularly the top three, Rance, Martin and Cochin. They were as good as they could possibly be. Jack had a great grand final. We all talk about their manic pressure and how their tackling skills, but their last, I think, 10 weeks, they scored as much as Adelaide. And on grand final, they've kicked 108 points, so that shouldn't be underestimated either, their ability to score later in the year as well.
Gave up 5 goals in the qualifying final, 9 in the prelim and 8 in the grand final. The forwards and their hard work's been acknowledged. Their midfield is elite. That defensive group are fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing we shouldn't underestimate either, they had no injuries. I think they had one player that hurt his knee earlier in the year. I think it might have been Drummond, and the rest were available. Whereas Adelaide lose 2 players, McGovern and also Brodie Smith. That really hurt them as well.
Before we look at the components to what made the victory so special, Gaz and Lotta, do you see a team that can sustain this now? Because this time last year we were thinking about the Bulldogs and thinking they would be at least back there again. We saw what happened. Do you see something different with this mix?
I don't think you can say with any great confidence if you're outside the camp. I mean, they will say the same thing that the Western Bulldogs said last year. No, we won't be complacent. We won't have any issues. So it's all to do in front of them. They would know that. They start level and square with everyone else in round 1 next year, and that's going to be a great challenge. But what you can do without having to worry about how you're kicking the footy or marking it is you can put pressure on, and that's the trademark. So whether they can bring that back again, Lloydie, but it was there for all to see from early on in the piece.
It was, as Damo said, they have just towed up every opposition in the finals. Geelong were made to look second-rate in the first final, then GWS couldn't cope, and then Adelaide. I thought Adelaide started quite well. They moved the ball okay. But after quarter time, it was all one-way traffic because of this. Jack Revolt, Damo, 7 tackles.
Well, 2 of those tackles we've seen there, from him in the first quarter, it just set the scene, didn't it? And he was doing that while he was missing shots at goal, which, could have gone against him and the club in other circumstances, but they just didn't stop and deviate off what their plan was.
No, and there's tackling and tackling with intent. I mean, there can be half-hearted tackles, Damo. I mean, this stuff here you're seeing is tackling with intent. That stuff from Townsend on Matthew Crouch over the boundary, I thought was magnificent, Then you get this sort of stuff, the panic handballing that comes about. Now, I mean, look at the scoreline. They're cooked by that stage, but that is the result of the work that's done early.
I could feel the momentum changing halfway through the second quarter, and at half-time I genuinely thought it was over. There was injuries to some Adelaide players. Just the momentum was with Richmond, and it didn't surprise me after half-time the way the result went.
Dustin Martin, Norm Smith medalist, absolutely no issue from my end. What did you two make of that game, and was he the worthy
No issue from me either. Had it gone to Hurley or Rance, I wouldn't have been fussed either. I thought all 3 of them were fantastic. But contested ball, when the moment had to be, in the second quarter, they had to kick goals and set goals up. It was Dustin Martin who was doing the work. And Lee Matthews, none other than the greatest of all time, posed the question, is this the greatest individual season ever? And it's hard to argue.
Right now, it is, isn't it? Given this Norm Smith medal capped off what was already a great season for all the ages as well. Is the scope for improvement? We talk about the team itself, Lordo. He's still got room to move, doesn't he?
Yeah, oh yeah, no doubt.
With maybe playing at that part of the ground.
Yeah, he's had a huge couple of years, but took his game to a new level. He just needed to build his tank, and he's done that. And I think that's what Adelaide didn't have, was Dustin Martin, that explosive running power. As good as Sloan and Crouch were, they just didn't have anyone who could run with him.
All right, we have to talk about the vanquished as well, and this is a side who acknowledges the best team, throughout the course of the home and away season. So impressive in their finals. They went chock full of confidence, they had everything rolling for them, and they failed. It was a dismal failure on their behalf, and that's a failure from the coaching box, for mine, all the way down to the field.
It's going to be a horrendous debrief, isn't it, Lordo, for what they did. Everything was so good until the main moment of the season. And people like Taylor Walker and Josh Jenkins, Eddie Betts you need to throw in there too, the forward line, again, Lynch... Otten had a bad game as well. They're going to have to live with that for 6 months, aren't they, guys?
And bad mistakes, though, mate. Look at that. 13-3. They had momentum, and Atkins decided to take advantage, play on, and ball gets turned over. They go and kick their first goal. It was just silly things. Where was the defender on the line here from Revolt? That's defendable. So you can do that. Well, these things happen in footy, in home and away. But in a grand final, it's terrible. And when you're a big key forward, Lloydie, and you don't get the job done, we've all done media over the last couple of days, you're going to feel some heat. Yeah,
Jack Revolt had presence on grand final day. 2 big contested marks. He laid tackles, and unfortunately, I thought they did a great job on Tom Lynch. I watched Broad and I watched Camden McIntosh, and they just hammered him. Every time he was on the wing, they gave it to him, whereas that Walker, that's just not...
That's where Walker's got to... you talk about physical presence, that's the one where he had to at least get the ball to ground and, impose himself on. It was Floston, fantastic by Floston going back with the flight, but in the end... It was not an easy victory, because that sounds wrong, but it was a victory that Richmond players would have been looking at each other in the 20-minute mark going, where's the heat? Where's the grand final pressure?
It's working for us.
Yeah, that we've heard about.
And the lack of response within the game itself too, I think it's equally crucial when they... things weren't working, but you saw how Richmond worked their way through those initial problems when they were 2-0 down, but the Crows just never gave a yelp, and you have to question their character, I think, on the back of not being able to maintain their form into that game and then not to respond to it.
Yeah. And, they were forced wide. They had the corridor on their own terms against Geelong and Adelaide Oval. They looked so slick. They came back through. But it's all credit to Richmond, the coaching plan, and then it was executed. And when you've got a bloke that sits in amongst all that, the leadership's been outstanding all year. We know that. They went down to 3, which I think other teams could take a leaf out of. It was just Cochin, Rance and Revolt. No 6-man, 8-man leadership. And to a man, they've stood up in their own different ways. Alex Rance was always a superstar of the competition. Trent Cochin is a Brownlow medalist, but his captaincy hadn't quite clicked. And we had questions whether Jack could find that niche. And here we are at the end of the season. They've answered it all magnificently.
We made such a big deal of that Harry Taylor day because it's just so rare to see Rance beaten. And he was beaten time and time again. And since then, he's hardly lost the contest. And he spooked them that bad that I thought Walker and Jenkins just were scared to go near the ball. After a half-time, they sent Otten to him just to say, try and negate him. Just kept giving away free kicks.
Yeah, in his own mind, he couldn't beat him, so he kept giving away frees.
And Jack Revolt's day got better even after the game when he spent some time on stage with Brandon Flowers, your man Gaz from the Killers, and belted out one of the all-time great songs with him.
I've never heard of him or the song, but now it is
iconic.
I don't know, but I love this. This will be one of the great post-grand final moments of all time, and Jack will... Well, he'll have this to show his kids and grandkids, won't he? It was sensational.
You need to get out more if you haven't heard that song.
I'm not a big music man.
Surely you've heard it, Waldo.
Oh, yeah, love the Killers. And I wouldn't have known Brandon Flowers if he popped up in the cereal, but I know that the Killers are a very good band.
Another post-game moment was really special too, wasn't it? When Damien Hardwick bumped into his mate, Alistair Clarkson. I don't know how Clarko got in there with his lack of accreditation for grand final day, Gaz, but...
He got 4 premiership medallions. Warrior, he goes where he wants.
Tell me, what impact did Alistair Clarkson have in what happened at the MCG on Saturday? Because they're close, they talk. Well, did he formulate a game plan that worked on behalf of...
I'd never take that away from Damien Hardwick, would you? But he would be absolutely silly, Damien Hardwick, if he hadn't chewed the brain of Alistair Clarkson about grand final day and how best to go about there. He's been there as an assistant to Clarko back in the Hawthorn days, 2008, so he would have picked it. Oh, well, I don't know. I'm assuming he would have picked his brain.
Did you see aspects of what Richmond did to the Crows to maybe what Hawthorn had done time during the year? To the Crows?
Hawthorn belted the Crows at Adelaide Oval, and they stifled their ball movement, and Gary's touched on the ball movement. Adelaide just could not move the ball like they have in the previous two finals.
They spent a heap of time wide, didn't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
they did.
they were out on the wings for a vast majority, and the reason why is because they couldn't go where they wanted to go. So that's the leading lanes that we're talking about. So that's the grand final. Richmond, we take our hat off. They're magnificent, and I've said today already, I'm in awe of what they've done.
Yeah.
What happens now? There are 17 other sides who want to be Richmond. How do they get there? The trade now is heating up.
Well, as we've said for some time, it's going into the grand final and even going out of it. And as we speak, the issues around Charlie Cameron and Jake Lever are going to get some clarity pretty soon. They both want to leave clubs. Melbourne's still leading the way for Lever. Cameron going to the Brisbane Lions. He's contracted. But, yeah, look, trade period starts officially next Monday. Free agency opens up on Friday. But trade radio has started as of right now as we talk. And the GWS team, guys, who fell short again in the preliminary final, they're going to make some significant changes. Issues around Heath Shaw, who's contracted. I think Shane Mumford will also be questioned. Stevie J's already out, we know.
Ryan Griffin, you threw
Ryan Griffin is another name too. Again, contracted, but linked to Carlton.
Consistent theme with all those blokes, Lloydie? Pressure.
Yeah, pressure as well, yeah. That's obviously what Bulldogs and Richmond have done if you can't defend. And Jack Watts is another one at Melbourne where they've probably had enough. And, we follow the leader in this game of AFL.
Yeah, and you're on Trade Radio each morning for the next 3 weeks from 7am, afl.com.au platforms, guys. You can get it all day, every day for the next 3 weeks.
Yes, my word, we can. It's time now for our Lift hard-hitting moments, and we've gone back into the AFL library again because these moments you don't see too often these days, probably because the guys that get 2, 3 or 4 weeks, but these are two of the hardest men I've ever played against. Worsfold and Archer. And Arch, you see, he wants to get up and have his say.
He didn't go off.
He's still sucking in the air there. So that's a decent hit from the big busher man.
The story goes, and he was saying something to him along the lines of, is that your best you've got? This is ugly when you look back on this one, guys. It was ugly at the time. The big Mark Rashuto got Dean Kemp in a way that it'd have to be 6 or 8 weeks these days, wouldn't it?
There'd be kids watching that going, what is that?
What's this?
I was targeting a Brownlow medalist, and I hit the Richmond assistant coach, the man who has orchestrated a lot of the ball movement at Adelaide. So off on a stretcher, I felt pretty bad about that one.
You actually got him worse than you got Stuart.
You lined up Shane Woden from 30 metres away. He ducked at the last moment, and you put the right plate carousel in.
Yeah, we used to call him Candles, but that was fair enough, that one.
Oh, that's legitimate. Hey, boys, this is our last show. Been a lot of fun. You two guys have been great throughout the course of the year, and enjoyed working with you. So thanks for your efforts. Magnificent. And thank you for watching Access all areas throughout the season. The show will be back in 2018. The season may have finished, but at afl.com.au we are ramping up the content. The trade period and the draft will all be covered comprehensively by our team here, and we are the #1 place to go to for all the latest news and quality video content. Thanks for watching throughout the year. Goodbye.